Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday, number 318, our series of webinars going back to 2013. Good afternoon, I'm Kelly Bearden. I am the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center, and we have a very interesting and informing program today on e-commerce and export solutions for many businesses and many small businesses out there. So, what is up today, May 1st, 2024? Well, it's Mayday. Mayday, everyone. So happy Mayday. And I haven't been able to say that on a webinar Wednesday in a long time. So here we are on landing on May 1st. We are now a third of the way through the year, and actually 4 months in. So happy Mayday, happy May 1st. It is also this week the U.S. Small Business Week. And so we will be fully celebrating, although we're celebrating U.S. small business this week. When you join us for our webinar on Webinar Wednesday, May 15th, we will be fully celebrating small businesses and small businesses' accomplishments. Today, we're going to jump into e-commerce. And is it a great way to begin exporting your products and services? So we'll look at some e-commerce, some resources that are available, some great programs out there to help you get going. Our economic corner today is going to focus on interest rates. So we had the Federal Reserve meeting today and talking about interest rates, and interest rates are a very viable factor moving forward for a lot of people and maybe not so much others. So we'll be talking a little bit about interest rates and how variable loan products are affected. We will jump into our capital quarter. Oh, we're going to surprise you with that topic. I think we will. So we will surprise you with the capital quarter. And so please stick around. And your questions today will be answered live. And your questions will be answered live. Good time to put your questions in during our presentation. Our presentation will be a little earlier today, so the Q&A will be a little earlier. So then moving along will be our resources, which are going to be in the chat box. And we also have a poll. So let's start with that poll right now. And we will jump up here to the poll, a couple poll questions for you today. And the first one, our first poll question, is going to be a little bit what we just talked about as far as interest rates. And so how impacted is your business or personally by high interest rates? So is it slightly? Is it moderately? Is it highly or not at all? So when I talk to a lot of businesses out there, we find out that some are much more exposed to variable rates, and those are the ones that are going higher. For example, those on SBA loan programs, particularly the most popular program, the SBA 7A loan program, those rates have gone, some of them have gone from literally 4 to 10% over the last couple of years. And so they are really highly impacted. Or, others I've talked about, they're not as impacted as all, as they haven't had a lot of debt. So how impacted are you? And already 91% of you reporting. So 81%, excuse me, we're going to jump in and we're going to give you a last couple of moments to get into the poll about how interest rates are affecting you. Okay, well, in the poll and share the results with you. And 56% of you say that you are highly impacted by interest rates. Another 33% are moderately impacted and 11% only slightly. And sadly, no one in today's audience is not at all impacted by the higher interest rates we are seeing. So thank you for participating with poll question number 1. And that will bring us to our second poll question of the day. And just to set it up a little bit, our poll question of the day is a little bit more whimsical. It's a little bit more timely with it being May 1st. So we thought we would come up with a great or even a crappy, and we'll let you be the judge, Mayday poll question today. And so our Mayday poll question is, Mayday Malone, Sam Malone, was a character in what 1980s TV comedy? Was it Seinfeld? Was it Cheers? Or was it Friends? You have a choice of three. Mayday Malone was actually a real major league pitcher for the Boston Red Sox who made his notoriety or his fame. I think it was more notoriety in 1975 when Pete Rose. Pete Rose got in the batter's box left-handed, and he called timeout and switched his glove to a glove to where he threw right-handed, where Pete Rose called timeout and then batted right-handed. So we had a switch pitcher and a switch batter. And that was Mayday Malone. But Mayday Malone was also a character in an 80s situation comedy. We're going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results with you. And look at that. 88% of you are correct. It's from the television sitcom Cheers, the owner of the bar Cheers. Played in real life by Ted Danson, 88%. Mayday Malone. Did get a couple of you that jumped into, or even more of the Seinfeld, and nobody jumped in from Friends. So good job, going back a long time. And that ends today's polls. We will jump in now and actually jump to our speakers today. Go to our speakers today. And first, I'm going to introduce Andy Seeto. Andy's a friend of Webinar Wednesday from his days back at the U.S. Small Business Administration. He is currently with the U.S. Commercial Service as the director of the Fresno team, having joined them in 2023. A similar background, a lot of things Andy did with SBA was to secure funding, financing with the U.S. Commercial Service. He is doing the same thing, kind of in export financing and trade and development, and a lot of other things. He supports businesses in the Central Valley, communities in Fresno, Madera, Mariposa, Merced, Tuolumne, Stanislaus, and Calaveras. And he's filling in currently for our friend Alicia Rios, who we wish a speedy recovery, helping us down here in the Kern County and Inyo, Mono, and also the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley. Andy, it's great to have you. Come on in and tell us a little bit what's going on and introduce our speaker for today.
All right, great. Thanks, Kelly. And thank you for all of you that have attended today, this afternoon, for CSU Bakersfield's SBDC's Webinar Wednesday. Really appreciate it. And as Kelly mentioned, today is May Day, the 1st of May, and May actually kicks off World Trade Month for us. And then also next week will be Export Week as well. So we want to thank Kelly Bearden and Maureen Busher-Dang and the rest of the SBDC team for the opportunity to present today. So really appreciate that. Just to give you just an understanding of what the U.S. Commercial Service does, we're a federal agency, and we are the lead export trade promotion arm of the U.S.-made goods and services of the U.S. Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration. And we're supporting America's small to medium-sized businesses. U.S. Commercial Service, we have about 106 U.S. domestic offices and 127 foreign locations in 80 countries. There are 15 offices in California alone. So there is a U.S. Commercial Service office near you. In order to find one that suits you, if you're not within California, if you're joining us from a different location throughout the United States, you can go through trade.gov and click on Contact Us to find your nearest office. Exporting goods or services may provide another source of increasing your revenues. Just hear about these numbers here. 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside of the United States, and 95% of the world's consumers are outside of the United States. So U.S. Commercial Service is here to help you find buyers. And now, the reason you are on this webinar, it's my honor to introduce today's topic and presenter on e-commerce and website globalization review. And believe me on this, you are getting the best of the best presenters from the U.S. Commercial Service. James Bledsoe is the director of the e-commerce solutions center and does a fantastic job in supporting U.S. Commercial Service team members and small to medium-sized businesses. James, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you to share your presentation.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, everybody, and thank you, everybody, our gracious hosts at the SBDC for hosting me today and hosting us, the U.S. Commercial Service, to give you all an overview of how to leverage e-commerce to grow your business exports. And this is what we're doing currently with our business clients, our small, medium-sized businesses that are everything from small consumer goods on up to heavy industrial manufacturing and service providers. So the main point of my presentation is that e-commerce is universal. It's for everyone out there, every business. And it's now a matter of how well you're doing e-commerce, not if you're doing it. The main thing with e-commerce is that it's growing as a sales channel. Currently, it's over a quarter of worldwide retail sales. E-commerce comprises that. It'll be over 30% of worldwide retail sales here by 2027. So again, it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to become a significant avenue for gaining sales, gaining consumers, and promoting your brand. What exactly is selling via e-commerce? Well, in the business to consumer, the retail area, it's the usual suspects of what you would think would be selling. It is fashion, clothing, electronics and media, toys, hobby, DIY, furniture and appliances even, and food and personal care to include biohealth and pharma. On the industrial side, we're looking more at services actually leading the business to business, followed by energy and manufacturing companies leading the way for e-commerce sales worldwide. So what is my office doing through the help of my colleagues, Andy? They're in the local U.S. Commercial service offices. What's the e-commerce solution center doing? Well, last year, I worked with over 750 of our clients, mostly involved in the manufacturing and services areas, followed by consumer goods. And we worked on promoting the WGR service that I'll get into in a little bit. The WGR service, or Website Globalization Review, is a search engine optimization service that is a good starting diagnostic point for businesses. And following that, we also engage with businesses through our e-commerce BSP directory, or Business Service Provider Directory. And that's another resource I'll cover in detail. But a lot of outreach last year doing e-commerce assistance and most of all, creating search engine optimization friendly content, learning resources for small businesses out there through the content that I publish on trade.gov/e-commerce. So what are the details then of working with a business on e-commerce? How does the U.S. Commercial Service do that? Well, we work with the client holistically, taking a look at the website to make sure that you can reach an international audience, that you show up in a search when you should through search engine optimization. And then in addition to that, making it clear on your web pages that you're open for international business, simply through putting things like made in America, made in the USA, international sales, contact us here, things like that. And then also continually adding new content to your website, like blogs, news links, anything really, because that is what drives your search engine score. Your ability to show up in that search is that new and continually fresh content. And then last, what we counsel our clients on, which unfortunately is a blind spot for a lot of business due to the technical nature of it, is the website analytics aspect of it. Looking at the feedback mechanisms of your business process to see whether or not you're getting the results out of that you want to see for your business and should see. And so with our counseling process, we help businesses understand all of these processes and provide on-ramps and off-ramps to other service providers and other economic developers to help grow your exports holistically from the ground up and to make them sustainably growing exports for your e-commerce sales channels. So how does that begin? Well, that begins with the WGR gap analysis service that my office helps colleagues like Andy administer to local client bases. And it's a report, a rather thick report that offers both technical and business process improvement recommendations for your website, in addition to providing referrals to e-commerce service providers through our e-commerce BSP directory. And you not only get that report, but we also read it through with you to make sure that you understand the salient points, the important points that you must act on to improve your search score, and more importantly, help you understand what isn't as important in that report. So you actually have a thorough understanding and confidence in what you're looking at in making business decisions and strategic decisions with regards to your business website. It's very affordable, very underpriced currently at $100 to $400, depending on the business size, and takes roughly 2 weeks to deliver to the business. So if you're interested in learning more about this WGR gap analysis service for your website search engine optimization, you can check out the video on it, a promotional video that we have, and then reach out to Andy at the end of this and ask more about the WGR service. Other resources that my office has created for businesses out there that we promote is this, our eCommerce Frontline Library. What this is basically a meta blog. It is a blog on search engine optimization using search engine optimization best practices. So when you come here, hopefully under the auspices of using one of the keywords that I've put in my content, and you read the content, you not only are educated on the topic of something along the lines of understanding e-commerce marketplaces or understanding e-commerce sales transactions, you understand that more in detail, but you also have an example of how to structure your page content and what search bots actually like and are looking for in the structure of a page content and how the content is linked within that page. So very helpful resource here. We help you to understand it. And after our WGR gap analysis service, looking at this content here makes a whole lot more sense as well. So if this is something you find yourself being drawn to, adding more content to your website, reach out to us. We can help you optimize that process and hopefully make it a little bit less painless of a process. We also have a learning series here through a strategic partner of ours, private sector, IBT Online. And they are a digital marketer that focuses on localization services for your website. And we have a series of webinars and live streams focusing on various markets and industry sectors that are recorded and held throughout the year. So if you're looking for more information on exporting to Mexico, digital marketing advice for manufacturing companies, these are the topics that we're covering on this Grow Your Export series that's available on trade.gov/e-commerce. We also have e-commerce market research. So if you want to know how to do business, how e-commerce works in Argentina or in Dubai or perhaps in South Africa, we have all of that information aggregated here in one place. Furthermore, we have our country commercial guides here that are well known across business. The e-commerce sections that are used in them are actually utilizing Statista data, which is very good data that we've actually purchased a subscription to as an agency. So we're getting some very good chart information here on products, services, and consumer information right here at your fingertips on trade.gov. I've also mentioned this a few times before, the e-commerce business service provider directory. What this is here is our screened resource of service providers who are focused on helping businesses sell more through the e-commerce sales channels. So you'll find service providers like digital marketers, translators, cyber forensics experts, sales channel managers, back-end technology development, software developers, all along those lines here on this e-commerce business service provider directory. And if you happen to be one of those service providers and would like to be listed on this in front of our clients as a resource, you can simply apply here where it says service providers apply here to list, and your application will go directly to me, and I will reach out to you for a screening call to be listed on here. So as I get close to wrapping up here, I talked about e-commerce, very broad strokes here, promoting it as a very viable sales channel. A lot of business is definitely conducted on that. When looking at e-commerce from a overall sales perspective, it's important to understand that what most people conceive as e-commerce, buying chapstick from Amazon, for example, that is just a very small sliver of the greater e-commerce pie that is including business to business e-commerce. So I want to emphasize that over and over again, that e-commerce is a very, very large and viable and growing sales channel. And we're here to help you understand how that sales channel works and how you can use it to promote your brand, your services, your products, your story online, and acquire more consumers, overseas consumers, online. Now, I failed to mention this during the WGR service slide earlier, the SEO service there. So as most of our clients who do that, they end up looking for service providers, which brings them to our e-commerce BSP directory that I just covered. That inevitably costs working capital. That costs money. That is unfortunately not free to fix those issues that need to be fixed with service providers. But luckily for everybody on the line here, there is something called a California Go Biz grant. For others outside of California, if you're outside of California, it's also known as the STEP grant. But this is available to businesses on a fairly competitive basis, I hear, where it will help you offset those costs. But there's also, that hasn't been mentioned yet by my colleague and friend there, Kelly, was the SBA loan programs that are also available out there to help you get working capital to pay for these improvements. So make sure you look into that. Make sure you ask questions about that as you learn more about search engine optimization and the resources that are available out there to help your website drive more of your international sales. We also have a lot of other resources here, traditional resources that my colleague Andy Seeto can help provide information on. The Gold Key matchmaking service, along with the International Partner Search, those are our flagship services at the Commercial Service that we provide to help you find vetted sales leads and prospects that our overseas embassy colleagues help us with this service to find for you. We also have other services through our Rural Export Center, such as initial market checks and also a rural rec center check as well. There's also a market intelligence index service, I believe. I'm getting that name not entirely correct. There's a wealth of resources through that Rural Export Center that I know you Northern California businesses would be interested in, as well as trade show representation. So if you're showing up at any international trade shows, know that our offices are also there to help you do matchmaking at events such as Consumer Electronics or ProMedica, for example. So as I wrap up today, I would like to thank you all for your attention. I know it was a rather brief presentation. However, I would like to open up the floor to any questions out there. I know a lot of folks out there have burning questions in the back of their mind, whether or not this or that applies to them, how something works, or where they can find more resources. So I'm more than happy to provide that information. For the majority of those questions out there, please do reach out to Andy Seeto, or on trade.gov. You can look up his office there under this link for commercial service offices.
James, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And audience, this is a great chance to get your questions answered. So we have a couple of minutes now where we're going to dedicate toward questions for James. If you have a question, I see in the Q&A box there is one question, but it's related to SBA loans. And the question, we'll take it while it gives you a chance to formulate other questions. Are SBA loans, all SBA loans, variable rates? And the answer to that is no. The most common programs are, and that would be, I mentioned, your guarantee loans that are provided generally through a bank, where the SBA comes in and provides a loan guarantee from anywhere from 70 to 90%. There are some fixed rate fundings through the SBA 504 program. And so that can be, at least a component of that can be, it can be partially fixed, if not totally fixed. And those people who are able to access that program when interest rates were low a few years ago, instead of the SBA, are some pretty happy people these days. So that is one, and that is for fixed assets. And also, Andy, you have anything to add to that?
On the SBA info?
You know a little bit about SBA loans.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only fixed SBA rates are the 504?
Yeah, typically the 504, but on the 7A program, the rates are negotiable between the borrower and the lender. So as you're trying to get your loan established with them, they've approved it, they've given you an offer letter. I mean, you can talk to them and discuss how to structure the interest rate in those loan programs. But the majority of the 7A loan guarantee programs, the lenders do only offer variable rates. As I mentioned earlier, we talked about next week is Export Week, and then May is the Export Month. We have a series that is coming up in reference to export documentation and logistics, 10 parts going through the whole month of May. There is a cost for this for $300, but for California businesses, through that GoBiz export program that James had mentioned, you can get reimbursed up to $150 if you sign up for this whole series. So if you are interested in this series, contact me and I'll send you out the information in reference to being able to apply for the GoBiz grant to get half off of this cost.
Well, it looks like a very comprehensive series with a lot of great information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's funny. I know ITI there. They're one of our service providers on the e-commerce BSP.
Okay. Well, James, thanks again. I guess you're pretty thorough in your discussion and your presentation. No questions.
You know, usually the questions take a few days to percolate through, but I guarantee there will be at least one or two questions following up after this. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity here to get our message and our resources out there. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, James.
good programs need to be publicized. So thank you so much for being here.
All right, you
Just
take
going
care.
back
Thanks.
into our chat, we'll check at the chat real quick. I don't believe there are any questions in the chat, but no, just a lot of resources that Maureen has put in. Great, welcome. And so thank you everybody for being here. You'll see the trade.gov e-commerce frontline video link and a lot of other resources that have been suggested by James and placed into the chat box by Maureen. Some of the strategic partners and some of the other items that are going on. And so maybe now what we'll do is we'll go back to a little of my introduction to where we will share with you some of the actual resources and how they apply moving forward. So jumping into our economic corner, we'll see that, Fed officials today did meet and on interest rates, and they are anticipating holding rates ready and steady for an extended period of time, which we had hoped we were going to see some rate declines earlier in the year. But kind of the benchmark that they use is this federal funds rate, and that is the rate of which the Federal Reserve charges their member banks for money. So the very lowest interest rate is always going to be that benchmark. And right now it's around 5.3%, which you see is the highest level in more than 2 decades. So it's been a long time since we've experienced high rates like this, but it looks like they're going to be with us a little bit longer. And they're going to be with us a little bit longer because of higher inflation. It looked like inflation had been a little bit better controlled, but recently there have been some inflation that has caused the Fed to be more pragmatic and actually postpone rate hikes, at least for the foreseeable future. And now they're likely to hold rates longer than anticipated in order to restrain economic growth. And so, I think you all know this, but why interest rates matters, but it affects business borrowing at every rate, at every level. So at every level, you see higher business borrowing cost. And it also, on a big level, on a huge level, it impacts the federal budget with much higher interest rate payments, creating either higher budget deficits or less spending by the federal government in areas that are not associated with interest payments. So it also affects consumer disposable spending, which is a key to many sectors such as hospitality and travel. If people are paying more on their mortgage, they're paying more on their car payment, and they're paying more in other areas, then what is going to happen is they're going to cut back on areas where they have disposable spending, and typically those are going to be hospitality and travel. So our capital quarter, kind of looking to tie into capital quarter and how it is going to what is going to be some good sources of capital for the topics discussed today. And one program that we run into is a line of credit, and it's a great source of funds. Funding, is usually for established businesses with historical cash flow and a track record. A line of credit is different than permanent working capital or, working capital funding, which is mostly done in the form of a term loan. So a line of credit, the way it works is that a bank will extend you a line of credit, and when you draw down that line, you then start paying interest on those amounts. So what you will do is you will pay a certain amount to establish the line of credit and pay it down. And then usually most lines of credit have a clear period to where you must clear the line off at the end of the given period, which is usually a year. So the purpose of that is to use the line of credit like you would, and it's usually used most popular, and which banks really want to lend it to you, is when you have a seasonal business. So your seasonal focused business has some type of spikes. So you could have either a summer period to where you're super busy, and maybe a winter period to where you're super slow. Also, those that have government sales, so that deal in procurement and sales to the government, they also have business spikes, or they are actually paid slower than they would want to. And it's handy to have that line of credit in reserve in order to meet the needs. So the pros and cons of a line of credit is you have a dedicated funding source that's available when you need it. It's available to carry receivables. So maybe you have a customer that wants to pay you over a longer period of term. Maybe it is 30 or 60 days, but your profit margins are high on this. So it makes total sense. And you know you will get paid. It'll just get paid. You'll get paid later rather than sooner. So it is also, if you have a line of credit in place, it is nice to where you can purchase distressed merchandise. Maybe there's a closeout to where you can add merchandise, or maybe it's a seasonable business. Maybe you're a retailer that deals in and has a high maybe holiday season in December. So that being the case, what you need to know is basically is that you have that line of credit available, and you will only pay interest on that borrowed portion of that loan. But the pros also have some cons, and the cons, these are not easy loans to acquire, and they are not designed to run up the balance because basically a line of credit is designed to, you run up some of the balance, you have money come in through receivables or other means, and you pay it off. And that is how that line revolves over a period of time. And so many do not clear the line out and that are termed out, and then they are not renewed. And so you lose a great source of funding. So that's a little bit about our capital quarter today and how lines of credit can work with if you're exporting, or if you're dealing with procurement or other sales to the government, if you have seasonable businesses, or if you have opportune periods of time where you can purchase merchandise at lower prices that really benefit your business. Then lines of credit that are paid off and revolve over a period of years are a great tool to have as far as a capital source. On to some of our programs that are coming up. If you want to run a particular daycare business out of your home, there is another business startup program coming. The 12-week program will begin on May 15th. You can receive a $1,000 grant, and these are for home-based businesses, childcare businesses out of your home, and are taught in both English and Spanish. You can let your friends know that there is a nurture coach that can work with them and get them through the training. And really, one of the great tools that they have also is they have a program that gets you your state of California license, which is not an easy process. Let's leave it at that. So it's not an easy process, and to become registered and licensed with the state of California, going through and training how you can have a childcare business that can actually make you money. You can extend a lot of the savings that you have into offering affordable childcare for people in your community that work. You can start by calling a nurture coach. 833-2413-994 is the number. So in our community calendar, resources of good things happening in our communities, we have our Kern County Economic Summit coming up on May 11th. It'll be broadcast on local Bakersfield TV on KGET channel 17 and streaming live on the internet on kget.com. It is presented by California State University, Bakersfield. It will actually present and focus a number of our economists. Our economist at CSUB out of the economics department could be, I don't know the exact schedule, but it could be Dr. Aaron Hedge, Dr. Richard Gearhart, it could be Dr. John Deal, Dr. Rich Ryan, or others for that matter. Well, I'll find out when I tune in on May 11th. But the econ department is in full force and is also presented and sponsored by the Bakersfield Chamber and the Kern EDC. So mark that date down. Also, just as a public service, if you've received any emails from the SBDC promising any funding through land loans or grants, please be advised that they are not authentic, that they are a scam. If you receive these emails, please do not provide information. The SBDC will never request Social Security or banking information. We will never say we have a $30,000 loan or grant for you, and all you have to do is send us $400, because everything that we do is free. We will never ask for your personal or financial information in an email. So please make sure you know who you're replying to. Remember, the SBDC does not offer loans. We've never offered any grants. But what we do know is we have a great team of advisors and consultants who can work with you on finding those loans and finding those grants and finding those lower cost of capital. So please, if you have a question, you can always call your local SBDC. If you like Webinar Wednesday, our webinars they go from today live to being in our CSUB YouTube channel, where we have, I believe, over 250 of the webinars in the past. Some of those are really, really outdated. Really. I look like I was 18, honest. But we do have over 400 subscribers. Jump in and subscribe. And when a webinar such as today is put online, you will be notified. The SBDC has plenty of toolboxes. One of the great toolboxes that we really get a lot of mileage out of is the Live Plan, the business planning software, where you can work with an advisor, potentially one of our CSUB student interns, and develop your business plan for your particular need. Do you want your business plan to acquire some type of funding? Do you want it as kind of the roadmap to your success? A lot of different ways to write a business plan. Really having a very knowledgeable advisor and somebody working with you to complete that is a great tool to have. We've talked so much about the business ownership information filing over the last several months. Boy, I just want to get back to talking about news that is a little bit more timely and better, such as, timely like today. The crude reserves went up 7.5 million barrels. Is that going to mean in the future that by using less oil, that oil goes down, which means that gasoline prices go down? Yes, I'd rather talk about that than the beneficial ownership information. But there's plenty of information if you want to find out the status of what's going on. It's really those that have started a LLC in the first quarter, a corporation, an S corporation, or other entity that need to be concerned about that. You can always contact us. A lot of different ways to contact us, either through our website, emails, etc. Our next webinar coming up is not going to be next week. It is going to be on May 15th, the 24th, 2024, webinar number 319. And we will be celebrating small business success. So, not seeing any other questions, I think we're going to wrap up webinar number 318. So for Andy Seeto and James Bledsoe from the Department of Commerce's exporting end, and for our producer, Maureen Busher-Dang, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be back on May 15th with another program. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.